Today we're going to talk about some of the different pieces of numerical data that are important, specifically measures of center, and we're also going to look at measures of variability, which talks about change. So before we get started with the math, we need to start with a little bit of vocab. So make sure that you put all of this into your notes. Some of it is review, some of it might be new. Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So frequency represents the number of times something happens. Mean in math is an average found by adding together all of the data points and then dividing by how many data points you have. Median is a center point in your data when it's in numerical order. So that means that half of the data is greater than or equal to that amount and half of the data is less than or equal to that amount. Mode is the most frequent data point. So whatever data you have the most often is the mode. And then range is the distance between the highest and the lowest value data point. So you take your highest value and you take your lowest value and you subtract them, and that gives you the range. It tells you how far the spread is of all of your answers. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at a set of data. So if we interviewed people and asked how many siblings they had, it's a statistical question because there's variability. Different people would have different answers to that question, and all of my answers are numbers. So here's my data. The first thing that we want to do is make a frequency table. So to do that, I'm going to make a table that has two columns. The first column is going to be whatever it is I'm calculating. So in this case, the number of siblings. Second column is frequency. So I'm going to start with whatever my lowest number is and count up to whatever the highest number is. Notice that I did include spots that weren't in the data table. I counted all of my numbers. So then I'm going to count the frequency. So how often something happens. So how many people gave an answer of 1? There were 3 people who gave an answer of 1. Here, here, and here. We're going to continue to do that. 3 people gave an answer of 2. 2 people gave an answer of 3. 0 people said 4. 1 person said 5. 0 people said 6. And 1 person said 7. I think you guys are familiar with dot plots from 5th grade, but we're going to review them briefly, so bear with me. So I'm going to start with a number line. I'm going to go ahead and number my number line. So I decided to start my number line at 0 because if I was an only child, that's the smallest possible number of siblings I could have. And then I just numbered my number line until I got to the end of it. I need to make sure that it goes at least to my maximum. And now I'm going to graph this data on here. So if I had 3 people who said 1, then I'm going to put 3 marks, dots, tallies, however you want to think of it, above the 1. Notice that I'm graphing above the number line and not on it, like I would be if I were graphing points. So if I was just trying to make a graph, it would go right on the number line. If I'm making a dot plot, my points actually go above the number line. So I'm going to do that same process with all of the other numbers, and so my frequency table should look like this. Go ahead and copy that down or take a screenshot. So the next thing I want to do is I want to take the same data and I want to find the mean, median, mode, and range of that data. So if I look back at my frequency table and my dot plot, they're actually very helpful to answer these questions. So mode is one of the easiest to answer. Which one has the highest frequency? Which one did the most people answer? In this case, I have 2 modes. So 1 and 2 are both modes because I have the most people. For both of those, they tied for first. Range, I can look at my frequency table or my dot plot and look at what my highest value is and my lowest value. So my highest value that anybody answered was 7. The lowest value anybody answered was 1. If I find the difference between 7 and 1, 7 minus 1 is 6. That means the range in my answers is 6. Median, I want to find the center point. So I can either do this on the graph or I can do it by writing things down. Putting the numbers in numerical order, I can kind of work my way in from the outsides to find that halfway point. So it turns out my halfway point is right here. So I've got 5 below it, 5 above it, and so my halfway point puts me at 2. So the median of my data is 2. The mean, I can use the graph for, but the graph doesn't actually make finding mean any easier than just looking at a random set of data. So to find the mean, I need to add together all of the values and then divide it by the number of different values I had. So in this case, I have 10 different answers. So I'm going to add together my 10 numbers and then divide them by 10. When I add them together, I get 27 divided by 10. Hopefully we remember that when I divide by 10, my place value shifts down. So then I end up with 2.7. Okay, so again, my mode was 1 and 2. My median here is 2. My mean is 2.7. And my range is 6. So the next thing we want to do is talk about what do I now know about my data? So the mean was 2.7 and the median is 2. So what does the mean actually tell me? Well, it tells me that if I squished everybody's siblings into one big bucket and I distributed them so that everybody got exactly the same, we would each have 2.7 siblings. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's possible. I'm not saying that the average person has 2.7 siblings. That doesn't make any sense. But it does tell me that if I were somehow able to combine it all and split it up evenly, that's the amount that each person would get. Median, on the other hand, tells me about where is that center point. So I'm not combining people's and splitting them back up. This one I'm just saying, where is the middle? Half of the people are going in one group, half of the people are going in another group. Where do I split it? So then the question is, which one helps describe it more and why? And the answer to that question a lot of the times depends on what you're trying to tell me. If I took out this student who had 7 siblings, said he didn't count, what would the effect on the mean be? What would the effect on the median be? So go ahead and give this one a try. Draw this number line in your notebook or copy it into your virtual notebook and see if you can take these 10 data points and make a dot plot, make a frequency table, find the mean, median, mode, and range. I've already organized them for you for the median to make things a little bit easier. And then talk to me about whether mean or median tells me a little bit more or better information about this data. You can give an example of what the data might be for if that helps your explanation, or you can just use it as numbers. Up to you. Good luck.